What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Brand new patch today with buffs and nerfs for several heroes in the experimental mode. Let's go check it out. First up is Ashe, who's getting a nerf to the dynamite ability. The explosion damage has been reduced from 75 down to 50. There are two different types of damage on this ability. You have the initial damage followed by the damage over time. So what they're nerfing is that initial damage from 75 down to 50, which is a pretty significant amount of damage to lose. The funny thing is, in the dev comments for this, they talk about how Ashe is still too strong, but it's not because Ashe has gotten any buffs at all in a good amount of time. Instead, it's because they've been nerfing everyone else so much that Ashe is actually still too good compared to everyone else just because they've been nerfing everybody else. Next up is Baptiste, who's getting a buff. His ultimate cost has been reduced by 15%. They have been nerfing this character again and again and again. They nerfed his healing, they nerfed his regen, they nerfed the immortality field more times than I can count. And they also nerfed his damage. I mean, everything about this character just keeps getting nerfed again and again and again. So they're finally giving him a buff in the form of the reduced cost on the amplification matrix. This will help a little. I don't know if this is actually going to do enough. I believe Baptiste is the second least used healer in the game right now. The first least used healer is Brig because they nerfed her into the absolute ground. At least Baptiste was getting some use, but I don't really know if this is going to be enough. I mean, everything else about the character is still really bad, so I mean, it's nice, but it's not really that big of a deal, I don't think. Next up is McCree, who is getting several buffs, including something that I have been asking for since the beta. You can now use the roll in the air, which is awesome, because if you have the bad habit of jumping a lot, what would happen is you jump, and then you try to use the roll, and it just wouldn't work because you were half an inch off the ground. But now you can roll in the air, which is awesome. Also, you'll notice that the distance is a little bit further. It has been increased by 20%, and they've also given a very tiny buff to the stun. It now lasts 0.8 seconds, which has been increased from 0.7 seconds. So a 0.1 second increase, which might not seem like a lot, but remember, they recently slowed down how fast McCree can attack. So making those combos when you would try to stun them and then hit them with the like a critical was a lot more difficult, and certain characters like Tracer and Reaper and some others would be able to activate their escape ability before you could fully react. So what they've done with this very, very minor increase on the duration is now they've actually given you enough time to where you can make that combo happen. So that's what's happening there. But it's just, oh man, it's so nice that you can finally roll in the air. Next up is Orisa, who got some pretty significant buffs. This is a nice change because recently she's been getting nerfed again and again and again. She went from one of the most used characters in the game to one of the least used, but I think that's going to change, and she's going to definitely have a nice improvement on that pick rate because, first of all, they have bumped her health back up, specifically the armor portion of it. You can see it's 450 again. The base armor was increased from 200 up to 250, and that's in addition to the normal 200 health. But the really big change is with her attack. They have dramatically increased her damage potential. Not the damage, that still is the same, the damage potential, and that's because the projectile speed has been increased from 90 up to 120, which is unbelievably fast. It's not quite hit scan, but it's pretty close. And I believe Ana's unscoped is also 120. So it doesn't really matter how far away they are. You're going to be able to hit enemies quite easily now. You don't need to lead them really almost at all. Unless they're really, really far away, you're not going to need to really lead them. Because, let me see if, where's this guy? You just don't need to lead them. Like, the projectile is so fast now that your damage potential, if you have good aim, your damage potential just went up a lot. And even if your aim isn't all that great, you're still going to see an increase just because you don't have to worry about trying to lead the target anymore. This is going to massively, massively increase the amount of damage that Orisa is able to do. Now, I don't know if this is going to entirely make up for the fact that the barrier is now tissue paper and Fortify has been nerfed. Her survivability has gone down quite a bit, even with the bump to her health that she just got. I don't know if this is going to be enough to fix everything, but don't underestimate how much of a potential increase this damage is, because it is definitely a lot. Next up is Roadhog, who's getting a pretty significant buff to the hook. I don't really know if this is such a good idea, though. What they're doing is they're making it so that the hook will now pull the target an extra 0.5 meters closer. So instead of being 3.5 meters away, they're now going to be 3 meters away. Under the old version that's currently on the live version of the game, you didn't always get the elimination when you hit them with the hook combo. You would have to throw the hook, then you would have to step forward, you would attack them, and then you would follow up with a quick melee. Most of the time, you would get the elimination, but there was still a chance that they could escape, or maybe your aim would be a little bit off, you wouldn't have it in the exact right spot, or maybe the character would have a smaller hitbox, and you wouldn't be able to get that elimination. But with this change, pretty much any target with 250 HP or less is going to be a free elimination from this combo. And sometimes, like with that, you don't even need the extra melee to follow up. Because they're so close to you, so many of your pellets are going to be hitting them that it's just a free elimination. Let me show you again. Don't even need to follow up with the quick melee. Like, that's how good this change is. And I don't know if that's such a good idea, because the game has been making changes where it limits the effectiveness of these types of combos or the one-hits. They recently nerfed Widow. They've nerfed Doomfist more times than I can count. And let's be honest, the hook combo doesn't require a terrible amount of skill, but I don't think reducing the amount of skill required to effectively do it is a good idea. If anything, you should maybe allow for that combo to still exist, but make it so that it requires more skill to do it rather than less. So those are the changes. Ashe getting a little bit of a nerf by herself, but the bigger issue is that McCree is getting some pretty nice buffs, which is probably going to make it even out the pick rates for those two characters. It's entirely possible that McCree could even go above Ashe in the pick rate. The Baptiste change is nice, but not really going to do a whole lot. The Orisa change, again, a lot of potential there, but because they have nerfed her defensive abilities so much, not really sure what it's going to do with that, right? Like, there might be more aggressive types of team comps using Orisa more for damage than for defense. That could possibly happen, but again, there's still some issues with the character. I mean, barriers in general are just garbage. And then the Roadhog change, again, I don't know. It just seems like it's making it too easy to do the combo. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Kinda seems like it's probably not. So those are the changes. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to be comment of the video, then leave yours, and while you're at it, ring the bell so you never miss a new video. Also, if you want to get some cool gear, join my Discord server, or follow me on social media, then check out the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.